How long should strength training sessions for menopause be? That is the question today. This is a listener Q&A, and I am responding to that. And I'll tell you, heads up, this topic and question specifically are almost a repeat. So this is not a replay of a previously recorded episode, but an update. And the reason is, if the question keeps coming up, it probably begs a different answer, one that might be a bit of a repeat of some of the original content, because that's not going to change, but that also might be able to relay the importance of knowing the answer to this question in a slightly different way to really resonate and sink in, because this is an important lesson. I'm Debra Atkinson. You're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top struggles and concerns, but most of all, we hope to inspire you to have the life and the energy and vitality that you want, need, and deserve in this second and better half. To do that, I share how to move, what to eat, and how to change your mindset about both those other things. So let's dive into this, by the way. So strength training sessions for menopause optimization are different. They're different than you've ever done before in your life, different than that of a man your same age. But repeatedly, because this question comes up, I'm paying tribute to it again. And because we get it wrong, if we risk losing, or if we get it wrong, we risk losing the benefits that we're really after from doing strength training in the first place. We can blow it, and we can turn this into an endurance event, which is absolutely the nemesis of muscle and energy. So the question is this. So I'm going to read the whole thing. Debra recommends 2 strength training sessions a week. Do we know how long these sessions should be? And Angie, thank you so much for asking it. And by the way, this was asked inside of our Facebook group, the Flipping 50 Insiders. And this is for members of the group are not already in a program. They're not following Flipping 50 programming and having access to me in a private group where they've got more immediate access from me and our community coach on a regular basis. So this is a place to go if you've got a question you want to drop it in for potentially an answer right away, or for a future video on YouTube, or a tip given on Instagram, or maybe a podcast just like this. So great place for you to get access to me, where otherwise I'm kind of protected because there's a limit to our time, right? All right. We'll put the link to the Insiders group in the show notes for today too. The best answer to this question is going to really, or would, require a lot of science. So I also want to say this little disclaimer. So I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version here. And the reason is this. So quite often, many of you know I'm a best-selling author, and I've written multiple titles, actually 6 or 7. And in the back of those resources like Hot Not Bothered or You Still Got It, Girl, there are over 100 different scientific resources. Every month in Flipping 50, I do a Science Says masterclass based on research featuring women just like you. And often I'm just recalling that research. Not necessarily can I tell you, oh, that was number 26 in that masterclass from April, and that was from quote unquote journal. I can't do that. My recall isn't that good. The space I have for storage up here is not that big. So you're going to have to trust me that I am quoting research, but please don't nail me in a comment and say, where's the research on this? Because my question is going to be, where were you when we had the masterclass? And you can access the books. Actually, the resources pages are both on my website with the resources to the book. If you don't even want to buy the book, really, there you go. So just a little disclaimer. Yes, this is research-based. You're probably not going to hear me in this Q&A jump in and say, here's the link to this study and that study. It's just, you're going to have to trust me to lean in that after 38 years, I cannot remember all of the research that, weekly I've studied. Okay, I'll elaborate based on the science I've shared with our audience in recent months and masterclasses. That, by the way, so if you're unfamiliar with that, the Flipping 50 Masterclass, every month, it's the second Wednesday of the month. It's open to the public. But if you're not on our email subscriber list, you may not see the invite. You may on social media if you're paying attention. And you can find a number of ways to gain support and be included on that invite list in today's show notes. So I'll state that at the end of the show, or always you can get to all podcasts from flipping50 allspelledout.com/podcast. Recent masterclasses that when I'm releasing this live, they've included science of belly fat burning after menopause, how to be older, fitter, stronger versus older, fatter, weaker, and updates on strength training in menopause. Just to give you an idea of what kind of topics do we cover. The reason we are hooked on time, meaning why is it so important that you ask, how long should those workouts take? Because I want to challenge you in asking that. And it's a logical question. So I'm not pointing out anybody necessarily, but all of us collectively, that's not the question, right? So if I told you it was an hour and a half, you still don't know how to make it count, right? So if you're like the guys I see at the gym, and girls too, between their sets, they're sitting on the bench scrolling. Like, if you cut that out, you'd probably cut your workout in half. And yes, there should be a certain number of rest between performing exercise of the same muscle group again. But I don't know about anybody else. I don't have time to sit still. So I'm going to do a set. I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to come back and do another set. I'm going to go do something else. Every minute that I'm at that gym, if I go to a gym or I'm out in my own, it's being managed for something productive that gets results. So you can rest one muscle group while working another one or doing something else. And that's really an important consideration. But back to this. Why are we so hooked on time? Why do we keep asking, how long should a workout be? Because that, again, is not the answer. First of all, though, we have a limited amount and we have appointments and all kinds of things booking our time, right? So it is important to us. We need to know if we're going to do a workout in the morning before work, how long should that be that it's going to really count for me? The second reason is we are conditioned mentally that a workout, I don't mean conditioning is a word that we have to be careful of here. Conditioned that a workout, especially cardio workouts or classes, are effective based on how long they are. Don't you remember when you grew up, and you may not remember this, but I do believe it's a part of planting the seed. When you were a young adult in college, so this is certainly where I learned it because I was in kinesiology and physiology at the time. So not only was I learning it from a lecture from my professors, but then I was turning around teaching it, already teaching group fitness in college. And we were conditioned that a cardio workout to be effective had to be at least 20 minutes. And in fact, it was like, well, if you don't have 20 minutes, I forget it. It doesn't even count. Not true today, by the way. New science, we've learned so much. We've gotten so much smarter. But that was one reason that you may have thought about it. We thought it had to be, 20 to 60 minutes long. That was an ideal. And so much intensity had to happen during that time, blah, blah, blah. So that may have given you the idea. We judge by the quality of this walk. So let's talk about that, quality versus quantity. The truth is, if you do 5 repetitions to fatigue, if we're talking about strength training with much heavier weight, you're going to require far less time to exercise than if you do 15 to 20 repetitions during a set. So, let me give you an example. The average time of a single repetition. So we've got a weight and we're going to lift it and then we're going to lower it. The ideal time, slow, controlled, you're in control. So we're going to change the muscle is 6 seconds. So that means you can do 10 in a minute, 60 seconds. Most people go too fast. So that 15 to 20 repetitions, that's going to take you, or should, right? If we do 10 a minute, that's 2 minutes, folks, right? To complete the set. Nobody's taking that. Let me tell you. I had a client confess very recently. It took her about a minute, less than a minute, to do those 20 repetitions. I'm like, this is not good, right? You realize that. So hopefully she's listening and she knows I'm poking a little fun with her. But we got to slow down. Otherwise, your muscle is not responsible for the moving of that weight. It's momentum, friends. And that doesn't get you the results that you want. Just to get you tired and just get you thinking, oh, I'm so virtuous. Oh, I did it. But that doesn't really count, right? So we don't need another reason to feel tired. So think about 5 repetitions. And it's going to be different because if it's heavy enough to fatigue you in 5 repetitions, it's probably not just taking 6 seconds. It may take less because there's power involved. You're going to have to use speed to get that weight up and stop it, decelerate it, and control it on the way down. So it may be 4 or 5 seconds is all it takes, but that's about 20 seconds then to complete 5 repetitions. That's it. Now, it's going to get easier to finish sooner, right? So a short workout could be the one that actually increases your metabolism best. The quality of the workout for metabolism boosting is not greater because it lasts longer. I'm going to say that again. The quality of a workout for metabolism boosting is not greater because it lasts longer. In fact, the risk of negative cortisol response is greater the longer a workout is. The moment you reach fatigue is success. That's all you need. When I'm at the end of my sets, meaning I've done a good warm-up leading up to the sets that are really strenuous, I can sometimes perform only 3 or 5 repetitions. And so that sets might take 15 to 20 seconds because the sets don't take long when you only have a few repetitions. And yeah, does it feel like, like that's it? Sometimes it does. But if you've lifted that heavy and you can't lift the weight anymore, you know you're done. Nobody has to tell you you're done. Those type of sets also feature power, meaning a little bit of speed. So I'm going to repeat that. So there's a difference in the recruitment of number of muscle fibers when you do that. That works to your advantage. So unless you've built a base foundation, you don't want to go on and be lifting heavy like that. If you've ever had shoulder issues, rotator cuff issues, for instance, you also might be cautious and you may not want to go quite that heavy. So you may stay at a more conservative, maybe just 8 repetitions or 10 repetitions, maybe the lowest you want to go, because that allows the weight to be slightly lighter and for you to stay, smarter within a range that you know is safe. So these 5 components, all right, I want you to know these 5 components should be in every single workout. And they are expanding or shrinking like an accordion based on the time that you have to exercise. And that's what I'm going to come back to. Spoiler alert. How long do you have? Are you willing to do 10 minutes? Can you do 15? Can you do 20? Because we can do an effective workout within any time frame that you give me. Now, if you only have 6 minutes, we're probably going to struggle to get a strength training workout in 6 minutes that's really very effective because you got to warm up, folks. And so these 5 components really need to be in each workout. A warm up, meaning we do a moving warm up, prepping you for the movement you're about to do. Now, if you're about to do squats with a leg press or you're using heavier weights in squats, body weight squats could be your moving warm up. You know yourself if you have potentially arthritis. You need a longer, more gradual warm up, and just doing body weight exercises of what you're about to do heavier and harder may or may not be appropriate for you. So you've got to think, who am I? What's my background? What do I have to deal with? Besides a warm-up, a plan of sets and repetitions that safely and effectively bring you to muscular fatigue. So that's where you may be saying, really a minimum of 2 sets is what you should be saying. One single set of an exercise and then doing a lot of exercises is really not as effective as saying, let's narrow it down when you have less time and choose 3 exercises and repeat them 3 times. So you want to do something really, really well and to muscular fatigue. That's going to have a better positive effect on metabolism and strength than does, let's just go through a circuit of exercises and do, 10 different exercises just one time each. Not as effective. So think about our major goals are bone and muscle and reaching muscular fatigue being important. So that planned set, so maybe it's 2 sets of 10 or 12 repetitions. Maybe it's 3 sets of 12 or 15 repetitions. That's an idea of a plan. You want to make sure it's science-based, right? Known to reliably result in gains in muscle strength and lean tissue for women like you. That's an important distinction. Not for mice. What happened to them on the treadmill? No, we don't care. And not for men. Certainly not for young athletic males, because they have far more testosterone and growth hormone than we have at midlife. They don't have the kinds of cortisol that we have. You got to remember, if they're 25-year-old males and they're athletic, they have very few responsibilities, is my guess. Just saying. Okay. So, in the last would be a cool down. So, a warm up, a plan of sets of repetitions, and knowing that this is science based. And you're going to do some kind of a cool down. Now, within this, I like to see a dynamic warm up follow a general warm up. But if you're in a real big hurry, you may not have time to actually do that. So you've got, a generic warm up and then a more dynamic warm up that is going through those moves that we've just described. You're going to do a squat or leg press. Well, let's do a squat in your warm up, right? So those things, and then often core. But if you're crunched for time, you might leave core out. Why? Well, because when you strength train, especially if you're using free weights, you are using your core. Now, if you go to a gym and you're sitting down on a machine and you've got your back constantly supported, you're really not using your core very much. So it's part of the reason why we always want to do some functional kinds of exercises with free weights as we age, making it a part of your regular routine and week. So warm up, overall warm up, then a dynamic warm up of movement, sets and repetitions, core exercise, and a cool down. Usually, there's a requirement of certain amount of volume for women over 40. The number of muscles involved, for instance, we like to see 8 to 10 if we can. But when you don't have time, do not say, throw in the towel because I don't have time. You're actually doing a lot of major muscle groups. If you just did 3 exercises, if you did a squat and you did a chest press and you did a bent over row, and just giving you an example of a push and a pull and a leg exercise. Well, during that chest press, you're using pectoral muscles of the chest and your triceps, 1 and 2. If you're doing that, then bent over row, you're using your trapezius and you're using your biceps. There's 3 and 4. If you're doing that squat, you're using your gluteus maximus, you're using your hamstrings, and you're using your quadriceps. We are at 7. I have 7 fingers up. It took a little doing, but I had to count them. Now you have used 7 major muscle groups, and some of them are playing a secondary role. They're not the primary movers, but we have still stimulated them. So if this is just a consistency workout, and you're going to get another more full length workout later this week, then great. You're still doing okay. You're still doing the best that you possibly can. So the things we want, number of muscles involved, and the number of exercises for each muscle group or body part. Ideally, we want to try to get 3 to 5 sets of exercises and 3 to 5 exercises for each muscle group. Now, that's going to become a longer workout, right? So we're not going to have that. What are we going to have? We're going to have at least a minimum of 1 exercise per every muscle group. That is minimum. Then you're also going to be looking at a combination of sets and repetitions. So we talked before about, say, 2 sets of, maybe 10 to 12 repetitions, or you're going to do 3 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions. So just to give you a formula that makes sense. Then you have the weight that's used to reach those parameters. So if I tell you you're seeking to fatigue at between 10 and 12 repetitions, 12 is your top. Like, you shouldn't be able to do 13. And you should be wondering if I'm going to get 11 and 12. That's how it has to feel. You pick up the weight that does that for you. I can't tell you, well, I want you to use 10 pounds to do this one. I don't know you well enough. No one knows you. No one knows how you slept last night. No one knows if you are like bouncing off the walls and the ceiling because you've had just the greatest news. Do you know that we all can lift more weight on those days? It is very much a mindset game. Very much. So, lots of things will determine how much weight do you need, and you may have to experiment each time you go work out. Someone will have to start, maybe you, by the weights you have available. You say, I am finally doing this. I am starting. And what I have in the weight room, left over from my son's college days or high school days, or this, and this. So you may start with that. And that might mean you need to do a certain number of repetitions to fatigue because that's what you got to work with. And if those weights were really light for you, it'll be more repetitions or more creative use of tempo training, really going slower, holding certain end positions. With heavier weights, you might find you can do only fewer repetitions. And again, that's okay. However, for somebody just starting out, I would not suggest that we go right for those heavy weights. If you really can't pick it up and do at least 10 or 15 and you're just beginning, I would recommend maybe go in the kitchen and look at your cans of beans and start with that instead. So just a note, if you're a beginner, that is very important for safety. So you can't rush yourself to results anyway. We need to lay a foundation for about 6 to 8 weeks. So your connective tissue around your joints, the ligaments, that needs a little more response time. So the best question to ask, I suggest you start with an answer to this. What amount of time are you willing to spend on strength training that will positively transform your energy, your strength, your stamina, and boost your mood and metabolism? What's a reasonable amount of time that you can spend during your life, during your week, for your energy? Though that may sound too good to be true, and all of it has been proven. A recent study I shared in a Flipping 50 masterclass revealed this. There were no non-responders. What do I mean by that? Meaning that of all, this is quote unquote, all older adults who began a science-based strength training program designed for them or continued to train with greater focus versus random exercise, 100% of the participants responded positively. Nobody didn't respond positively. So, if you wonder, will this work for me? It will if you commit to doing it. So back to the question, are you willing to spend 30 minutes twice a week? Is that still too much? Can you do 20 minutes, maybe one day that has to be a weekday, but you have a little longer on the weekend day? Any way you slice and dice it, you can develop a program that fits into that. And this was years ago. I've been doing this for 38 years, and probably 33 years ago, that I was on a daily basis doing fitness testing, fitness assessments, and telling people, look, I know you think it takes a long time. Tell me, how long do you think it takes? I said, why don't we start with this? What are you willing to do? How much time on a weekly basis? If I said, let's try two different times doing strength training, what could you set aside? That's really the best way to start. Now, I can also say this, are you willing to spend 60 minutes so you could do a proper warm up and a proper cool down too, and, 40 minutes doing the strength training? There is no right or wrong answer here. And there's certainly no judgment coming from over here. Doing something is better than nothing, provided it is planned for you specifically. So let's think about that. If past experiences dictated that you started and you stopped, you're a little reluctant maybe to commit because you get in over your head. If it was because you overcommitted, or it was some kind of a program that you knew you could never do long term, like P90X, like 90 days in a row, and you're going to do this high intensity workout in your living room where nobody else is around, I don't know. That's a little challenging for me even. So think about, what's a shorter, realistic time that you're willing to commit to. Like, I will do this. The point is, why not make exercise fit your time and stop expecting that to, turning your world upside down to fit the exercise program is a good idea. So the short solution, I've got a question that I think we can all say yes to. Will there be days when, even if you say, well, I could do 20 or 30 or even 40 minutes twice a week, but will there be days when you and I only have 10 minutes and yet we want to stay consistent and do that? For most of us, absolutely we will. And I have these often. And for a traditional, I want to do more girl that I am, these days that I'm too busy to do more, they're the universe telling you that less is best when you're already stressed. And I know that's a Dr. Seuss rhyme. Actually, you're probably going to see it in a post, but it is so very true. When you are stressed, and part of the reason you can't exercise is because of your stress level and the things causing you stress, doing less exercise is actually the most effective thing. Suits your hormone profile at the time. Your cortisol level, if that's high because of stress, your insulin level is probably higher. And those two things are catabolic in nature, meaning they break down your muscle. If you do more exercise, even what I would say is this is your normal amount of exercise. But when you're stressed, it feels to your body like you're doing way more than you should. So bringing it way down and doing way less is like a surprise. It's like, oh, okay, I remember you exercise, we're friends, and I can handle that much. It works better for you. So there you have it. The answer to how long should it take in a long-winded answer to what might have felt like it's a simple question. It's not about the time, it's about the quality that you put in during that time. Make it count. You can make a 10-minute workout very effective, or you can make it nothing, like not count at all. And likewise with a 60-minute class. Just because you go to a 60-minute class doesn't mean you got a great workout, right? It's, did I reach muscle fatigue every set? If I was doing 3 sets of those 10 to 12s, did every set 1, set 2, and set 3 find me at muscular fatigue, wondering if I could get to the last repetition? That's success. Reaching muscular fatigue, as long as the workout that you chose for yourself fit how you were feeling. If you already have adrenal fatigue, then pushing to even do that short workout may be the absolute wrong thing. That 10 minutes might be better spent lying down, doing a little yoga pose, or going outside for a short walk. So there you have it. Strength training sessions for menopause. Hope that was helpful. And I also know I may have opened the door for more questions. So if you have them, please let me know. But every so often, I hear also from fitness and health coaches that I've challenged everything they know or they think they know about exercise. And so I think that's a good thing. But I want you to know, because I received those comments, that trainers who haven't gone through extra training, who haven't sought specialist or menopause fitness training specifically, most likely have never had it. I taught for 15 years in kinesiology, and I write exam questions for the health coach, the personal trainer, and the medical exercise certification exams. And I know that all we're doing in a 4-year degree is trying to get someone out with just 4 years. We sign a contract with their parents. So we don't have time for the extra niches. And there are so many people with cancer, people with heart disease, people with fibromyalgia, people with arthritis, and women in menopause. So you're quote unquote, not taken even as a specialty population, but just a part of the population we don't attribute enough time and dedicate enough time to looking at. And as far as certification exams, similarly, we don't actually prepare people for depth in terms of menopause, even in the medical exercise specialist. And it shouldn't actually be there. It doesn't really have a place. It's not a medical problem. Every woman in the world goes through menopause, but it's not yet finding its way to textbooks. And the reason is because those textbooks too are getting thicker and thicker and thicker. And people are just, ordering the textbook, studying on their own, taking the exam. And so that they can only put so much in there in order to get people out. But to item writers or question writers like me, this is what we're tasked with. You're writing questions in the purpose of a certification exam that creates those certified trainers we put so much trust in. So be careful with that. All that we're told is our goal is to create a minimum viable trainer to enter the field of training. That's a very low goal, just saying. So you want to really be screening personal trainers if you're working with them. Have you ever worked with women just like me? Tell me a little bit about it. How would your exercise prescription for me as a woman in menopause be different than your exercise prescription for a young woman who was 30 or a gentleman by the same age? Quiz them a little bit. So if they don't have an answer, you don't necessarily have to have the answers, but they should certainly have an answer, and it should be satisfying for you. Okay, what are you waiting for? Let's start flipping 50 today.